Have you ever noticed the ones who hurt you are the hardest ones to let go of? The ones who betrayed you, yet you still check to see if they've watched your story. The ones who humiliated you, but you wonder if they still miss you. And the ones that shattered you, you somehow still defend them, even when people have told you this is abuse. You don't miss them. You miss the chemical chaos your body called love. You miss the high, the pull, the storm. You miss the proof that pain meant you mattered. Because that's what trauma does. It rewires you to chase the very thing that broke you. Your nervous system starts to believe that if it doesn't hurt, it's not real. That if it doesn't cost you something, it cannot be love. And that is the hook. The invisible thread that keeps you checking, overanalyzing, rationalizing long after the relationship ends. Abusers know exactly how to build that hook. They do not win with chaos. They win you with comfort, and then they turn that comfort into control. They find your deepest wounds, abandonment, shame, scarcity, and they weaponize them until you mistake anxiety for attachment. And today we are going to break them, not by fighting the narcissist, but by reclaiming the parts of you they used to build the hook in the first place. I'm Meaghan, a trauma-informed strategist and abuse recovery coach, and the woman and narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, the space where healing stops being about survival and starts being about rebuilding. This is where women come after the chaos, to understand it, to release it, and to rise from it. Because you cannot rebuild what you don't understand. You cannot release what you still keep romanticizing. And you cannot rise until you stop mistaking pain for proof that you're alive. So how does the pain become proof? Abuse does not begin with cruelty, it begins with connection. They don't show up screaming, they show up studying. They mirror, they listen intently, they give you the kind of attention that feels like finally being chosen. That is not love. They are collecting data. Every secret you share becomes a lever. Every insecurity you confess becomes a script. They learn where your soft spots are, where you overgive, where you fawn, and where you start to panic. But once they have the map, then they start the cycle. Reward, withdraw, reward, withdraw. Your body learns that relief only comes after pain, so it starts to crave pain just to feel the relief. That is the hook. The high from the apology that doesn't change. The rush of the reunion that always ends the same way. You start equating suffering with significance. Every tear feels like evidence. Every argument feels like intimacy. Every recollection feels like redemption. You don't even know that it's conditioning, but your nervous system does. You are not obsessed with that person, you're addicted to the pattern. Your body bonded through stress chemistry, dopamine for the chase, cortisol for the tension, oxytocin for the temporary relief. You are not crazy, you are chemically trained. And until you learn how to separate the body's craving from your soul's truth, you will keep mistaking survival for love. I had a client who divorced her husband, but she never really disconnected. She would respond to every text, every email, every little bait disguised as co-parenting. She told herself she was keeping the peace, but deep down, she was keeping the connection. The truth was, every time you reached out to her, even when it was cruel, even when it was cold, it made her feel something. It meant she mattered to him. That's what pain does when you've been trained to equate love with attention. It does make the wound feel like proof. If he was angry, she felt significant. If he ignored her, she spiraled. If he criticized her, she defended herself. Not because she wanted him back, but because the fight gave her the identity. And that's what the hook really is. It's the nervous system saying, if I'm still hurting, I'm still connected. At one point, she had shared with me, I know that he's toxic, but when he's gone for too long, I feel like I don't exist. And that's the part that breaks, right? Because that is how deep the conditioning actually runs. Pain was her proof of worth. Conflict was her proof of relevance. And chaos told her she had a place in his world. When she finally stopped responding, no text, no explanations, no reactions, she thought she'd feel powerful, but she didn't. She felt empty. She said it felt like she just disappeared. And I told her, you don't disappear, you just stopped performing for proof. That's the moment where people meet themselves again, where you realize pain was not proof that you were loved, it was proof that you were still hooked. And that silence that followed, that's where the healing actually begins. Because once you name it for what it is, everything starts to shift. The moment you see the pattern, it loses its magic. Pain stops being proof and starts revealing where you were never met. There are three things, I like to call them the holy trinity of how abusers are going to weaponize your wounds. They do not pick you at random, they pick you by resonance. They feel the unhealed frequency of your earliest wounds, abandonment, shame, and scarcity, and they will use them like instruments to orchestrate control. The first hook is abandonment. If you've ever been left, dismissed, replaced, your body learned that love disappears. So when an abuser pulls away, it hits that wound like a live wire. You panic, you chase, you over-explain, you plead for closeness just to stop the ache. They learn that disappearing gives them power, and they start to use distance as discipline. Every time you calm the chaos, they will leave again, and you internalize the message, if I behave, if I stay small, they will stay, and that is not love, that is conditioning. Then they introduce shame. They chip away at your confidence until you start seeing yourself through their eyes. They frame your reactions as crazy, your needs are too much, your memories are wrong. Shame is how they convince you to self-police. You start apologizing for existing, shrinking your edges, editing your truth. It keeps you quiet, because if you question them, you risk losing the illusion of love. It's not that you don't see what's happening, it's that you've been trained to believe silence equals safety. And the last piece here is scarcity. They ration affection, withhold praise, and give you just enough crumbs to keep guessing. They promise future change that never comes, so you hold on for potential instead of reality. Scarcity makes you compete for crumbs like they're gold. It convinces you that this pain is the price of love, that you'll never find better, that no one will ever understand you, and they are your person. When these three wounds run together, abandonment, shame, and scarcity, they form a perfect storm. You're terrified to be left, too ashamed to leave, and convinced nothing's better waiting for you if you do. That is the psychological architecture of the trauma bond. That is how they keep you loyal to your own suffering. And once you understand it, you stop trying to earn your way free. You walk out knowing it was never your job to stay. Breaking the bond isn't about revenge, it's about regulation. You don't heal by winning or proving. That's still the hook. You heal by refusing to participate in the energy exchange that kept you trapped. Starving the hook looks boring from the outside, but it's the most radical rebellion of your life. It's the day that your silence becomes louder than their chaos, the moment you stop explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. It looks like no more late night paragraphs explaining pain to a fucking wall. No more checking their page to see if they miss you. No more accidentally replying to a breadcrumb just to remind them that you exist. Every act of restraint is a nervous system recalibration. Every pause is your body learning that peace doesn't mean danger anymore. Because the truth is, when you stop feeding the drama, you'll go through withdrawal. Your body will ache for that chemical cocktail. Dopamine from the chase, cortisol from the fight, and oxytocin from the makeup. It will feel like emptiness, but that emptiness is not absence, it's detox. It's your body unlearning the language of chaos. You will think, I'm lonely. But what you are really is unhooking. You're peeling the trauma residue off of your nervous system, the one that taught you to feel safe is in suffering. And this actually reminds me of something. It was my birthday. I was visiting the man who would later become my ex-husband, and out of nowhere, an email from my narcissist ex-boyfriend. We had been no contact for months, blocked on everything. He always knew how to find the crack in the wall, and I used to always respond. He opened with nostalgia. He told me that he'd found letters I'd written him in his car, that he'd gone on a date the night before but had to leave because she wasn't me. He told me that he knew I was in New Brunswick seeing someone new, and then I swear to God, he gave me a list of rules for my new relationship to be successful. That he had deleted our YouTube channel, that he would always love me, and he would never forget me. It was textbook manipulation tactics trying to hook me again. Every sentence was designed to pull me back in with shame and guilt and superiority. And it almost worked, okay? So for a few hours, I sat there thinking about drafting a response. My body was on fire. My instincts were screaming like, respond, defend yourself, tell him to fuck off, remind him that of course he'll never forget you. It felt super automatic. And that's how deep the hook will run, right? Even though you know it's manipulation, your nervous system still reaches out for that old rhythm. I spent the whole day fighting it, opening the email, reading it, getting pissed off. Half of me wanted to win the exchange. The other half of me wanted the noise to stop. And then something inside of me snapped. I realized he wasn't reaching out because he missed me. He was reaching out to see if he still could. It was not love. It was control dressed up as closure. I typed out an email, short, surgical, final. I told him what love wasn't. I had listed all of the harm that he had done to me over the 4 years. And then I left it in my drafts. I blocked his email. That moment did not feel like triumph. It felt like I didn't do a good job of protecting myself. My body was screaming, like, I'm not doing this right. And I decided for the first time I needed to stop letting pain prove my importance, because that's what starving the hook was like for me in real time. Racing heart, sweaty, silence that feels like death, but on the other side of it, peace that finally felt like power. Now, this was years ago, and since then I've had the experience of my narcissist ex-husband. I don't respond to anything today. He tries to bait me all the time via text message. My silence is a superpower, but it takes time to get to that point. Trauma bonds are a fickle bitch, but this is what starving that hook starts to look like. It's not glamorous, it's not cute, it's not a TikTok trend. It's gritty, it's somatic warfare. You're teaching your body we no longer chase what hurts. No contact isn't cruelty, it's your power in closure without permission. The longer you stay off, the more your baseline resets. The adrenaline fades, the obsession absolves, the calm that once felt boring starts to feel sacred. And in that stillness, you meet yourself again. The woman underneath all the over-explaining. The woman who stopped needing to prove she's good. The woman who finally understands peace is not punishment, it's the pride. The hardest part for most people that I work with, once you starve the hook, the grief comes for you. And it's not the kind of grief that just passes. It's the kind that will dismantle you before it rebuilds you. Because what you're mourning isn't just them. It was the identity you built while surviving them. It's the version of you who believed love meant endurance, who thought self-sacrifice was sacred, who equated chaos with chemistry. Grief is your body's way of emptying all the lies. Every tear in your nervous system releasing stored evidence of I was never enough. Every breakdown is the detox of maybe I could have fixed it. You'll grieve the version of you that kept holding out for hope. And that's sacred because she was never weak. She was loyal. She believed. She just did not know that belief and that bondage can look the same when you've been trained to equate love with loss. The first night that I had removed my ex-husband from my home, the silence was deafening. It was not peace. It was shock. Every sound felt too loud. I felt uncomfortable in my own house. Every room felt too big. For years, that space had been filled with noise. Arguments, screaming, tension, walking on eggshells, hiding, trying to keep everything together, and suddenly there was nothing. I remember standing in the kitchen and staring at the same walls that had heard every version of me. The woman who had begged, negotiated, who kept trying to fix what could not be fixed. And for the first time, I didn't have to manage anyone's mood. No one was watching. No one was waiting for a reaction. No one was out to get me in the safety of my own space. And you would think that that would feel freeing, but it didn't. It felt so foreign. My body did not know how to relax. I was on edge. I kept waiting for the explosion, the something, the cycle to restart. And that's what most people don't understand about healing. The quiet is not going to feel safe at first. You are going to think something's missing, but you're really just detoxing from all of the chaos. I sat on the floor that night and let the silence hit me. No distractions, no phone, no justifications, just me and the weight of everything I had fucking tolerated. And in that stillness, something broke. But then the rebuild started, because that silence that once felt like loss suddenly became the sound of freedom. And that's when I realized that peace is not the absence of noise, it's the absence of permission for anyone to disturb it again. That's a big transformation point. When you can miss the noise without reopening the door, that is when you are truly free. Reinvention isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about recoding what it meant. It's realizing you weren't too emotional, you were emotionally starved. You weren't dramatic, you were desperate for safety. You weren't naive, you were hopeful in a world that rewarded hardness. And that's not weakness, that's humanity. And now that you know better, you can lead yourself differently. You can start setting boundaries that don't require permission. You start finding peace and consistency. You notice the difference between love that calms you and love that consumes you. You stop chasing closure because you become it. You stop wanting them to see what they did because you finally see it yourself. That is what rebuilding looks like. And that is what the RRR membership is for. We do not pretend it didn't happen to you, but we make sure it does not define you. Because pain isn't proof, presence is. And once you feel that, they can never hook you again. If this episode cracked something open in you good, that means you are waking up. Please share this with a woman who needs it. Hit follow so you don't miss the next one. Send me a DM on Instagram and tell me what landed for you. And when you're ready to go deeper, please join me inside of the RRR membership. The community where women learn to dismantle post-separation abuse, anchor in their power, and rebuild into the narcissist's worst nightmare. This is the Narcissist's Worst Nightmare podcast, and remember, your comeback starts the second you decide you'll never confuse pain with proof.